Talk about the third barrier, which is one that people don't think about as much, but which I think is actually the most serious. The human body is not designed for space. We evolved in Earth's gravity, 1G. Our cardiovascular system, our musculoskeletal system, our vestibular system, our immune system, all of them are tuned to operate in 1G of gravitational acceleration. In microgravity, the condition you experience in orbit or during spaceflight, everything goes wrong. Your bones lose density. Your muscles atrophy. Your cardiovascular system weakens because it doesn't have to work as hard to pump blood. Your immune system becomes compromised. Fluids shift toward your head, causing vision problems that can be permanent. We know this from decades of experience on the International Space Station. Astronauts who spend 6 months on the ISS lose 1 to 2% of their bone density per month. Their muscles weaken significantly, even with hours of exercise every day. Some of them develop vision problems that don't fully reverse when they return to Earth. Now imagine a Mars mission. Not 6 months, 2.5 years, 9 months to get there, 18 months on Mars at 1/3 G, which is better than 0 G, but still not enough to prevent degradation. 9 months to get back. By the time you return to Earth, your bones will be osteoporotic. Your muscles will be severely weakened. Your heart will struggle to pump blood against Earth's gravity. You might have permanent vision damage. Your immune system will be shot. Could you survive? Probably, with intensive medical support, physical therapy, long-term treatment, but you would not be healthy. And there's a real possibility that some of the damage would be irreversible. And here's the really disturbing part. We don't know if the human body can even survive the trip at all. We've never sent humans beyond low Earth orbit for more than a few days. We don't know what happens to the body after months or years in deep space, exposed to cosmic radiation and microgravity simultaneously. There might be synergistic effects. The radiation might make the bone loss worse, or the muscle atrophy might make you more vulnerable to radiation damage. We simply don't know. This is not an engineering problem. This is a biology problem. And biology, unlike engineering, can't always be solved with better technology. Now let me talk about cost, because cost is where all of these physics problems come together and become insurmountable. NASA estimates that a human mission to Mars would cost somewhere between $500 billion and $1 trillion, $500 billion to $1 trillion. For comparison, the entire Apollo program, all the missions, all the infrastructure, all the development cost about $200 billion in today's dollars. And that was to go to the moon, which is 3 days away, not 9 months. Mars is vastly more difficult. You can't abort and come home if something goes wrong. The orbital mechanics don't allow it. You can't send a rescue mission. By the time it arrived, the crew would be dead. You need redundant systems for everything. Life support that can run for years without resupply, radiation shielding, medical facilities, habitats on the Martian surface, return vehicles, fuel production on Mars because you can't carry enough fuel for the return trip. All of this mass has to be launched from Earth, and launching mass to space is expensive. Even with reusable rockets, even with the most optimistic cost projections, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars just for the launch costs. And for what? What do we get for $500 billion? We get to say we sent humans to Mars. We get some scientific data, though honestly, robots can collect most of that data for a tiny fraction of the cost. We get to wave flags and take selfies. Is it worth it? From a pure science perspective, absolutely not. Robots are cheaper, safer, and can stay on Mars indefinitely. From a pure exploration perspective, maybe, but only if you value human exploration for its own sake, regardless of the cost. And here's the thing. I don't think society will be willing to pay that cost. Not when there are so many other problems to solve here on Earth. Climate change, poverty, disease, infrastructure. You could do an enormous amount of good with $500 billion spent on Earth. Now, I know the counter-argument. People say that space exploration inspires us, pushes technology forward, gives us a sense of purpose. And that's all true. Apollo inspired a generation. The pictures of Earth from space changed how we think about our planet. But Mars is not the moon. The moon is 3 days away. You can watch the astronauts live on TV. You can communicate with them in real time. If something goes wrong, you have a chance, a slim chance, but a chance to bring them home. Mars is 9 months away. Communication has a 20-minute round-trip delay. If something goes catastrophic, there is absolutely nothing we can do. The astronauts are on their own. And unlike the moon, where you can survive on the surface in a spacesuit for a few hours, on Mars you'd last maybe a minute before the low pressure and radiation killed you. The risk is enormous, the cost is enormous, and the benefit, the actual tangible benefit beyond national prestige, is unclear. I think that's why we haven't gone to Mars yet, and why we probably never will. Not because it's impossible, but because when you actually run the numbers, when you actually confront the physics of the problem, it doesn't make sense. Now, could I be wrong? Of course. Maybe someone will develop a revolutionary new propulsion technology. Maybe we'll discover a way to shield against cosmic radiation that doesn't require tons of mass. Maybe we'll figure out how to keep the human body healthy in microgravity for years. Maybe the cost will come down by an order of magnitude. But I've been around long enough to be skeptical of revolutionary breakthroughs. In physics, we make progress incrementally. We understand the limits imposed by the laws of nature, and those limits are hard. You can't cheat thermodynamics. You can't cheat the rocket equation. You can't cheat nuclear physics. And even if we solve all the technical problems, we still have the economic problem. Who's going to pay for it? Governments? Governments can barely fund basic science research. They're not going to spend $500 billion on a Mars mission when they have budgets to balance and voters to please. Private companies? Maybe. SpaceX has ambitious plans, but Elon Musk's estimates of cost and timeline have consistently been optimistic, shall we say. And even if SpaceX succeeds in dramatically lowering launch costs, the other costs, life support, radiation shielding, habitats, medical systems, don't go away. You know, when I was younger, I used to dream about space exploration. I thought for sure we'd have moon bases by now, Mars colonies, O'Neill cylinders, the works. But the more I've learned about physics, the more I've come to appreciate just how hostile space is. Space is not the final frontier in the way that the American West was the frontier. The American West was hard, but it was fundamentally habitable. You could breathe the air, you could drink the water. You could grow crops, you could live there without massive technological support. Space is not like that. Space is an incredibly hostile environment that actively tries to kill you every second you're there. And Mars, while better than the vacuum of space, is still fundamentally hostile. Unbreathable atmosphere, lethal radiation, freezing temperatures, toxic soil, no liquid water. Making Mars habitable, really habitable, not just survivable for a few months in a tin can, would require terraforming on a scale that makes every engineering project in human history look trivial by comparison. We're talking about giving Mars a magnetosphere, thickening its atmosphere by orders of magnitude, warming it by dozens of degrees, making the soil fertile. This would take thousands of years, minimum, maybe millions. And the energy requirements would be astronomical. So when people talk about becoming a multiplanetary species, I think they're vastly underestimating what that would actually require. We're not going to colonize Mars the way Europeans colonized the Americas. The physics doesn't allow it. Does this mean we should stop exploring Mars? Absolutely not. We should send more robots, better robots. Robots that can drill deep into the Martian crust, analyze the geology, search for signs of past or present life. We should study Mars intensively because it's fascinating and because it tells us about the history of our own planet. But humans? I don't think so. I think the risks are too high, the costs are too high, and the benefits are too uncertain. And I say this as someone who loves physics, who loves the idea of exploration, who would be thrilled to be proven wrong. I would love to see humans on Mars in my lifetime. I just don't think it's going to happen. Not because we lack the will or the imagination, but because the laws of physics are what they are, and they make the problem extraordinarily difficult. Maybe future generations will find a way. Maybe in 100 years, or 200 years, technology will have advanced to the point where a Mars mission is routine and affordable. Maybe they'll look back at this video and laugh at how pessimistic I was. But based on what we know now, based on the physics as we understand it, I think we will never reach Mars. Not never in the absolute sense, but never in any practical, sustainable way that makes sense given the costs and the risks. The universe is vast and beautiful and full of wonders, but it is also incredibly hostile to life. Earth is our home, and it's the only home we're likely to have for a very, very long time. Thank you for listening. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.